Hello everyone, Sancho here, and it's the end of April, which means it's time for another life and channel update video from me. So there's been a lot more activity on the channel in the past, half a month or so. But let's start actually with following up with something from last month, which is, I mentioned last month that I was getting close to finishing up an article that I've been working on about my identity, and I have finished that. So I finished that according to my notes on the 9th. So I will include a link to that in the description. It was a really hard article actually to kind of finish up because I had to figure out like what were the important details, what did I not need. So there's just a lot of like editing, I guess you can kind of say, a lot of like trying to figure out what needed to be there, what didn't. And so there's just a whole process of getting that figured out and sorted. But that's done now and is out, and I'm happy about having that finished. Opened up a bunch of brain space for other things that I will get to later. So that is done. But yeah, let's go ahead and address the more recent things, which is I've been streaming Guild Wars 1 again because of the anniversary event, but I've actually been having a lot of fun doing it. So I'll, for various personal reasons, won't be able to stream much in the first part of May, but I'm intending to, I think, stream some more again when I come back from that, because I kind of have been enjoying pursuing, like, I feel like I've gotten my alt account far enough into, like, in terms of character development, that I'm finally able to kind of muster some resources and make some actual progress on my unlocking all skills quest and the quest of progressing my alt account. So being able to get the anniversary weapons has also been helpful in that to some extent, particularly for the physical attackers, because it feels like I'm finally able to get them some equipment that actually does things. So that's something that I want to, I've been enjoying working on that the past, I don't know, week and a half, 2 weeks, or whatever it's been, since the 15th, so about 2 weeks at this point. Also, I am recording this on the actual anniversary, the actual 20th anniversary of Guild Wars 1, so happy 20th birthday, Guild Wars 1. I didn't start playing the game until more like the early autumn. I don't remember exactly. I could probably calculate it out using the age command a bit more closely to when I actually started. But my recollection is probably around August or September of 2005. So a couple months after it came out. So I missed some of the earliest stuff. But before AI knew to not just stand in meteor showers and firestorms until they died. So, and my first character was an elementalist, so I got to enjoy that brief period of time in which you could just nuke the AI from outside of range. But this is not nostalgia time. This is the channel. So yeah, I've been enjoying doing that, and it is making me want to spend more time streaming than I had for a while there. And thank you to everyone who's been showing up to that as well. That's been nice to see. But there's been other things that's been going on. One of the big things that actually dominated the first part of this month was finishing up reading the So I'm a Spider, So What light novels. This is a series that I got into because a friend recommended the anime some while back. I tend to like isekais because I really like world building, and they tend to emphasize world building. Like, often exploring the world building is very diegetic, as you have the protagonists or main characters, depending upon how you want to describe that, exploring the world that they have found themselves in, right? It is very diegetic exploration of the world. So that's something that works really well and really appeals to my sensibilities when it comes to stories. But then I was like, a lot of the world building that's happening, particularly in the latter half of the anime, was really intriguing to me, and I wanted to know more. But there was no signs that there was going to be more of the anime. So I started by trying to read getting the manga from the library. I read like the first issue, and then there was an issue with getting the second one in that, because I'm been going with my sister, or like working with my sister through this, where we weren't quite sure. That's why I'm using the plural first person pronoun. We weren't quite sure what we were doing, and accidentally got the second light novel. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and just try reading it. And I really, really like the style. I really enjoyed reading the light novel. So as fast as the library system could get them to me, I was kind of reading through them. And I actually read the last 3 in one day. I'm not a big reader, but when I read, if it's a story that I'm really getting into, I really tend to read it a lot. So I've become a huge fan of So I'm a Spider, So What. It's a story that I find really engaging. It really, I feel its world building is really well considered, and it really processes through that well. It does a couple of other things really well that I also appreciate. One of the big things that the series does well is it shows things from multiple points of view, which lets you get perspectives both inside a character and inside another character, because it's written in predominantly in very close first-person perspective, where it's basically like, here's this character's internal monologue. This is kind of like what it is. And it's probably not exactly that. It's a little bit more what am I doing sort of thing than an internal monologue normally would be. But it's kind of got that feel to it. So it's a very close first person point of view. So you really get their reactions to things. You really get kind of like personality traits, like what do they call people? What sort of nicknames do they give and that sort of thing? How do they classify people in their heads? Which has been really interesting. It's stylistically, it's something that I've quite enjoyed, actually. And I found it very inspiring. But what this means is that like you can see the same scene from 2 different points of view, and so you can get the reactions of both sides to it, and the reactions, it is. So there's a concept, just to kind of rewind my brain a little bit. There's a concept in mystery novels called the gloat. This is where at the end of the mystery novel, the detective explains how they figured everything out to the audience, basically. But it doesn't really matter who they're explaining it to. It's just explaining to the audience how the detective figured everything out. And so that gloat part is really important for like closure or making it feel like the series ends properly, right? It's an important trope in detective or in mystery novels. And something that I've come to realize is just how important sort of variations on that concept are, where, because like something that can make a gloat really good is when the perpetrator is reacting to what the detective is discovering, right? And so when you have sort of the reaction scenes, and this makes me think of like something I was thinking about, no spoilers with this, but with the Wheel of Time first season when I was watching it with my sister, and wanting there, I don't remember if it was the first or second season, but anyway, wanting there to be more reaction shots of people reacting to things. And one of the things that I've come to realize is what's really important to me narratively is those reaction shots, because it lets me feel the significance of something that's happening. So I feel like I've got like So I'm a Spider, So What does reactions really, really well, and does an excellent job of how the characters are reacting to the things that they are witnessing. And so that's something that I've really appreciated from the series. And then, like I said, the world building feels really, really, really well considered. And I enjoy a lot of the character relationships as well. But the way that the world building is so well thought out and kind of fleshed out is something that I really have appreciated and really enjoyed. So, I've become, like I said, a big fan of that series, and it actually has somewhat inspired me to want to write my own stories in a similar style. There's definitely going to be some other inspirations from So I'm a Spider, So What, but I'm not going to talk about them here. You need to wait until I actually have written something. But I've been doing some preparatory work on that. Just getting the ducks in a row for characters and setting. So I've been working on that. One of the things that I need to get better at, though, is making space for myself to think. It's this really, really, to some extent, it's an environmental challenge in the sense that being in front of my computer is the place where I write down my thoughts, but it's also a really tricky spot for me to get myself into a thinking mood. And so somebody said, like, who made the productivity machine and the distraction machine the same thing? I think I heard Hank Green or read Hank Green say that somewhere, but it's really a challenge. So like my best spots for thinking are where I'm not directly in front of the computer. So either like and where I'm not like having to focus on things too much. So lying down in bed or in the shower or sometimes while cleaning my teeth are I'd say brushing my teeth, but I also floss, so it's cleaning. So that makes for good spots to think. And so it is my bed's up here, right? So, and as I move my arm, the camera goes all wonky. But that, like, I have to move around my desk, climb up a ladder to be able to like lie down and then give myself like 30 seconds to think through something and then climb back. It's just way too arduous. So a different environmental setup that would make it easier to be able to get into a good spot for thinking would be really helpful, I think. But there's not a whole lot I can do about it right now. My room is of limited space, and I feel like I've optimized it to the extent that I can. So it is what it is, and I will have to continue trying to figure out how to work with the situation that I'm currently in as best I can. But it has been, I've been making progress on it, and I'm happy with how that's been going. And I've been making slow but steady progress on the game I've been working on as well. In there, as I was waiting, I did rewatch the So I'm a Spider, So What anime, and I do think the light novels are better. At least I like them a bit more. And I think that there are some confusing editing decisions towards the end of So I'm a Spider, So What in the way that they cut between two different time periods. But anyway, I also rewatched Overlord while I was waiting for some of those books to come in from the library. Overlord is a really interesting anime in that they really want to make sure you're aware that the main character is not a good guy. Like, the protagonists are not good guys. They're not entirely villains, but they're more villain than good guy. And that's a very interesting one because of that. I'd like to see more of that too, but not as much. Like, I don't care as much as I do about So I'm a Spider, So What. Let's see. Other things that I mentioned. The Magic the Gathering set Tarkir Dragonstorm came out this past month. I enjoyed the pre-release. The set really appeals to me a lot more than Aetherdrift did, although Aetherdrift has some really cool cards. I'm a sucker for gold sets, for multicolored sets, so Tarkir Dragonstorm appeals to me a great deal on that basis alone. So my local game store is also bearing out that people have more interest in it, in that there's been way more interest in drafting, and Standard has not been happening as much as a result. But that's okay. Made a couple of Magic decks, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and then streaming Guild Wars 1. I've also... the other sort of big thing that's happened this month is I decided, you know what, I am wanting an anime that lasts for a while. Let's go ahead and watch Naruto Shippuden. And let me tell you, that one definitely has a lot of episodes. I am a good chunk of the way into it, being over 100 episodes in at this point. But I think there's quite a bit more. But it's been a really interesting show to watch. Naruto is often a character that I personally find, like, he's an archetype that I personally find frustrating. It's similar to like Lloyd Irving in Tales of Symphonia, where he's like the character that wins through sheer determination and the stamina to outlast everyone, and has weird in-universe charisma to me. But sometimes he has good, genuine moments that I like, and I'm at least happy to see that he changes and grows. So I give it props for that. The world building of Naruto is so slapdash feeling. Like, their method of long distance communication is birds, but they also have short range radios and electricity, and apparently like a knowledge of medicine that goes down to at least the cellular level. It's very eclectic, and feels very inconsistent. And then like partway through, they're like, let us introduce more complex rules about how ninjutsu works. And it's like, wait, where did this come from? Why did this come from? So it definitely feels very strange to me. Not to mention it's also super bleak setting where it's like, okay, our main characters are child soldiers who have like grown up into being teenage soldiers. And it's like, this is maybe a little bleak when you think about it. But let's not think about it. That's not what this show is about. This show is about the emotions. Which brings me to something that actually was really significant to me. A conversation that I had with my sister about particularly the relationship between Naruto and Sasuke. Where, so for those who are not familiar with this particular relationship, in the original Naruto anime, which takes place when they're, I guess, about 10, 12, something like that. They must be, by the end, they must be about 12, because it seems like they're about 15 or 16 by the end, or by the start of Naruto Shippuden, which takes place 3 years later. But they have their initial like training team of Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, and they like begrudgingly like a friendship forms between Naruto and Sasuke, and so like Sasuke then begins to like acknowledge Naruto, and like Naruto has been like an orphan and a loner and is desperate for friends, so he feels like Sasuke is like the first person who like really acknowledges him as a friend or whatever. So it's really meaningful to him. But by the end, like one of the things that you have going on with Sasuke is he's grieving because his big brother Itachi slaughtered the entire rest of their clan. So Sasuke like wants to get revenge for that by slaughtering the other person who's left in their clan, his big brother Itachi. And so by the end of Naruto, for spoilers for this like 20 some odd year old show or something, there's a falling out where Sasuke basically determines he's going to pursue revenge above all else, and he's going to go to train under the very dubious Orochimaru, whose name starts with snake. Like Orochi is snake in Japanese, as I understand it. And so he's going to go train under Orochimaru to gain the power. And like Orochimaru is a villain. Like he's straight up just a villain. He is kind of like a mad scientist who's like takes over people's bodies in his own pursuit of immortality and stuff and power. Like he's very much so a villain. But Sasuke is like, I'm going to go to Orochimaru in order to gain more power, in order to be able to exact revenge on Itachi, who is much stronger than him. And so, like, that's kind of... Naruto wants to go stop Sasuke and bring him back. That's one of his driving character motivations, and we see that, like, for getting stronger himself, for Naruto getting stronger himself. And we see that coming into Shippuden, is one of the things that... like one of the big motivations that Naruto has been having is wanting to find Sasuke and get him back from Orochimaru. Now, the problem with Naruto's thinking here is this perception, as it were, that somehow Sasuke has been in some way like almost kidnapped by Orochimaru, which is not true. Sasuke like was perhaps enticed, you can say. You might even argue tricked, but it is his own choice to go pursue Orochimaru and power through Orochimaru. And so, like, in many regards, what Naruto wants to do is violate Sasuke's autonomy and his own free will in order to be able to save his friend from Orochimaru, which is like... So there's a couple of layers here, and this is something that I talked with my sister about a good bit on one of our walks recently. And so there's a couple of complicated things here, because I'm also thinking about this from like my own, like taking this framework, right, and putting it in both a like general, like more broad way, where what you have as a setup going on here is like understandable from Naruto's point of view. He wants to save his friend from making bad decisions, right? Like his beloved friend Sasuke has made a really, really bad set of decisions. Sasuke's dedicated himself to revenge, to pursuing revenge at all costs, of throwing away all of his other relationships. He doesn't care about Naruto anymore. He doesn't care about Sakura. He doesn't care about any of that. All he wants to live for, he is tunnel visioned himself on his hatred for his brother and getting more powerful so he can take revenge. And that is Sasuke's reason for existence. And Naruto wants to rescue his friend from that. Right, that's really kind of fundamentally what's going on there, is he wants to rescue his friend from that, and he interprets that as beat his friend up in order to be able to like take him away from Orochimaru or something. I don't know what Sasuke or what Naruto thinks he can accomplish by becoming more powerful than Sasuke, but he has it in his head that if he becomes more powerful than Sasuke and is able to beat Sasuke in a fight, that somehow that will save Sasuke. That seems to be where Naruto's headspace is at, which like I don't know where he gets that from entirely, but that's what he's more or less convinced of. And like it's clear with where I'm at now that they're adding some nuance to some of that, but the point remains that like this is the like headspace that Naruto's kind of been in up to this point. And so like I understand his desire to rescue his friend, right? He wants to save his friend from a destructive path. And so like we can parallel this in a general sense to like somebody who's a drug addict, for example, or otherwise just making bad decisions that they're turning away from you and things like that, but you want to pull them out of the situation they're in. But also where I really think about this is in a religious context, right? Like I'm a Christian, and there's a big idea there of people being saved, right? Now, we would say saved from sin in order to be able to have a hope in the resurrection from the dead and living forever with God in a society that is no longer burdened by sin, which is what makes everything work wrong, or fail to work, I should say. That's somewhat oversimplified, but we're not here for a theological philosophy lesson. And so, like, I can understand of, like, in some regards, Naruto's like determination to rescue and save his friend is really admirable, and like I see that reflected in the character of God, who wants to rescue and save us. But at the same time, Naruto's abject refusal to accept his friend's free will choice seems to me really like toxic, right? It seems really, really toxic, and it is toxic to not acknowledge someone else's free will decisions, right? Like, so then the question becomes, how do you navigate this situation where your friend is making bad decisions, that like is walking down a self-destructive path, and you want to rescue him, but you also can't force that, right? And like, what do you do? Like, this is really, really challenging. This is not simple, right? It is not an easy thing to navigate. And so when I was talking with my sister about this, I started thinking of some of the Bible passages, particularly in 1 Corinthians 5, I believe it is, where it talks about a man in that community who is having a deeply improper sexual relationship. And they're like, y'all like need to basically, if this guy wants to continue going down this destructive path, you need to say, look, you are no longer like able to be part of this community, but the goal is to have him come back, right? The goal isn't to kick the person out. The goal is wanting this person to come back. And so like, this is a passage where I've not really been able to quite understand this idea of needing to create the separation the way that it's talking about. And I feel like talking through some of this stuff of like, okay, well, what do you do? So like, you're thinking about, okay, you have, say, a friend and you want to help him, and you want to help this friend, right? And so you want to help them, but they're always like asking you for drug money, for example. Like, what do you do? Well, what do you do if like refusing that is like, oh, then you hate me or whatever for not helping me or whatever. And the question then becomes, it's like, okay, I want to leave the door open for reconciliation, but the way that you are right now, we can't be in a relationship even though I want it. How do you indicate to them that the door is always open? We always want you to be able to come back, but you have to choose to come back. And that's really what I think like that 1 Corinthians passage is about, is we want you to be part of our community. We really, really do. But you've chosen a path that is outside of what was like outside of our community, right? Like Sasuke has chosen a path to follow Orochimaru that is away from where Naruto is. Naruto really wants to pull his friend back onto the path where he's at, right? So that his friend can be part of his life again. But Sasuke has to choose that, right? So the question then becomes, how do you pursue the reconciliation, the restoration of this relationship that Naruto really wants to restore, but his friend broke? Like, his friend needs to repent. Sasuke needs to repent of this separation. He needs to change his mind. That's what I mean. If you listen to pastors define it, like repentance just means changing your mind, right? Like Sasuke has to repent of following Orochimaru and leave that sort of behind. He needs to change his mind and change his perspective, his method of walking, his path, to be one that leads back to Naruto, in order for that relationship to be reconciled. And by and large, like, I don't know where the anime is going. Like, I don't, or the manga or whatever. I don't know where the story is going because I haven't gotten that far yet. But like, for Naruto's goal to be achieved, fundamentally, Sasuke has to change his mind, right? And so the question is like, how does that happen or whatever? And I'll find out eventually, I'm sure, because if they don't talk about it, I would be shocked. But it's an interesting thing to think about and to process. And so I feel like talking about that with my sister really helped me understand, just talking about this fictional relationship between Naruto and Sasuke helped me understand this actual thing a lot better. It doesn't necessarily mean I always have an answer. Like, everything requires discernment and navigating carefully, but it's very clear that there like is a line where it's like, I want this person to be able to come back, to be able to be in a relationship with him. But something about the way that they're living means that we can't be part of this community together, at least not in this way. And so there has to be a separation there that you want closed, but it requires the other person to change in order for it to be able to close. So that's just something that I'm thinking about. I don't know if my rambling about it communicated it well. The conversation was very good at the time, and I don't think I've reported it particularly well, but it was a very good conversation, and hopefully me talking about it here has been interesting to you as well. But anyway, that I think kind of summarizes the month. There's been little other things that have been happening. Like the talk time has been started up again, and allergy season for me seems to mostly be over at this point, which I'm really happy about. It was going strong when I recorded last time, but at this point it seems to have mostly cleared up. There might be a little bit of something I'm still allergic to, but our cherry tree has blossomed and now lost most of its blooms. It was really pretty. I can see it outside my window over there. It's really nice. And it's lost most of its blooms at this point, but yeah, so it's been a good spring overall, or a good April overall, I'd say. So until next time, everyone, take care and goodbye.